Welcome to the RNR Good Stuff podcast where the retro computing, gaming, and hobbies collide.
Welcome back to R&R Does Stuff. You are here with Rich and our host, Ryan. Ryan, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Hey, welcome. Thank you for coming back and joining us. We had a little bit of road trip.
This is going to be a different episode. This is going to be a different episode totally.
A different episode? Oh, yeah. It's a different episode for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of vintage stuff going on. May slip something in sooner in a little bit, but we're on a road trip. And I saw some vintage animals on this road trip, for sure. And it's a little bit of foreshadowing, but had a great time. You know,
dude, tell me, let's just pick one of the locations you went to. Let's just dig in a little bit. What's number one on the list?
Number one on our list, not the number one of experience of this road trip.
Right.
But we went to Dayton, Ohio, to the Air Force Museum. And there's a lot of vintage aircraft there. All the way back from, we saw the Wright Flyer, one of the, early, and they had a really nice layout starting from there and working their way through the years. It was really, really cool.
I did get to go myself. I was up in Ohio for a training class with Polycom, of all people, a video conferencing provider.
Nice.
And we got out right first thing in the morning on the last day. So on the way back to the airport, I stopped in. And I only had, maybe an hour and a half. And I flew through as much as I could. I mean, I was like, 100 balloons. That's great. Wright Flyer. That's great. This is great. And I just kind of flew through as much as I could. And it was so much. How long did you spend there?
We were there all day. We didn't go when they started, but it was Amy and I. This was Amy and I's, then Amy's my wife, our vacation trip, summer vacation this year. And one of the stops was this Dayton Air Force Museum. And a comment I don't think she lets me live down is, it shouldn't be that big of it. It's just airplanes and stuff. It's not that big. It is huge. It is ginormous. And I live in D.C. with Smithsonian's, and this place is ginormous. Oh, my.
Did they still have the, SR-71 out? Did you see
there was some aircraft outside, but where this was on our trip, summer of 2024 was amazingly hot. So we didn't go to a lot of the outside exhibits. I think there was only like 10 aircraft or so outside. Mm-hmm. There must have been 200-300 inside. So they had all kinds of different aircraft around. It was great. The biggest thing, I know, you get your picture taken with a backdrop of an airplane. They had a space shuttle. There was a training system there. So it wasn't an actual space shuttle that went into space, but it is one that they used in training of the astronauts that went into space. And you could walk through it.
Oh,
they
my
had a
gosh.
picture of it. Oh, yeah. So you could go see the different compartments, and they had a little flight simulator area. Like only 2 people could do it at a time, but you could actually do a little flight sim and walk up and see what the bay is. Yeah, they used it as getting around and knowing where different components were in the shuttle. So that was pretty sweet, being able to go through it. Because space shuttle by where I'm at, it's roped off. You're just kind of looking at it, right?
Yeah.
So this is that simulator that they have plexiglass in front of areas, so you can't just be going through it, but you can get right up real close inside and a little ramp up, and it's higher, so it's a nice vantage point for the rest of the aircraft in that area.
Dude,
really cool.
Dude, and hey, I was gonna say the space shuttle maybe, is it old enough to be considered vintage?
Sure. I mean, it started design in the late 70s.
Yeah, isn't that like 25 years old as vintage?
Oh yeah. I mean, it hasn't been flying in years at this point.
I think that's vintage. Did they have any of the even older space program stuff?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of the old. There's Mercury spacesuits I saw.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Well, they had a big rocket sideways with a giant engine on it. I don't really remember which one it was, but they talked about the Apollo missions. Oh yeah, tons of that whole area is full of rockets and space.
Unbelievable.
What else was in there? Experimental aircraft. A lot of the different experimental X-planes that were doing things, and then they had a couple like cockpits you could sit into, and you could walk through some of the older presidential airplanes.
Oh, that's neat.
You know, the old uh, turboprop or prop things, and you saw the one for like FDR, and there was like an elevator in it, so we could get in and out of the airplane. It was
Oh,
pretty cool.
yeah. Oh, I never even thought about that.
Yeah, since he had, you know, unfortunately had polio when he was a kid, and luckily that's not really a concern for us anymore. But yeah, that was pretty sweet.
Well,
For sure.
that is a great thing. I really wish I could see that space shuttle exhibit. I know, you know, we have ours down here you can walk through in Houston.
Oh, that's cool.
But you know, I think it's outside. It's always hot. You know what I mean? And this one's indoors. I mean, it's amazing how much stuff they have under roofs.
Yeah, it was 5 or 6 ginormous hangars just full of planes. And they haven't broken them up by the different eras, like early flight, World War One, stuff in between, World War Two, you know, Korea, Korea, Vietnam, etc. So there's a ton of neat stuff, because it is an Air Force museum, so it's going to be military aircraft.
Oh yeah. And I bet out of the folks listening, there's many people that have done that also. That just, you know, these kind of museums just even resonate with us in the community of vintage things and old computers. And, you know, every time at VCF, there seems to always be someone that has some kind of Apollo equipment on display. You know what I mean? From space programs.
Yeah, definitely was pretty sweet. That was a great museum. Highly recommended if you get a chance. We found another museum while we got into Dayton a little early, and then went to this other museum before I went off to meet a cousin of mine for dinner. And it was like a little science area, had some like otters in it, had, you know, different science thing around Dayton. They also had an Egyptian section with a mummy.
What?
A real mummy and some Egyptian artifacts. Apparently, the first ambassador to Egypt was from Ohio, and Egypt gave this guy 2 mummies. One of them ended up in this museum, and one ended up in a different one.
What?
Yeah.
He was gifted mummies from Egypt?
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be some colonialism story.
No.
We were in Egypt and took it, and it ended up in Ohio. I can't believe that was a gift from the government of Egypt to, I guess, our first ambassador, you said?
I think it's, if I'm going by memory here, I think he was the first ambassador to Egypt.
Wow. Everybody,
like the early
in the comments below. If you know differently, just put it in the comments below.
Right. I think it was the early 1900s, but it was really kind of neat. It was like, I never expected to really see a mummy, and particularly not in this museum in Ohio or Dayton. It was just kind of like, okay.
Oh, Ohio. Look at me.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was great. It was just like, oh, that's random. And then they had a lot of science activities. So they have like science center, they had water stuff. So there's a lot of kids areas in it as well. So really great place for kids, and us large children enjoyed it as well. So that was definitely a play. What else did we do? We did a lot of zoos in this trip as well.
I know we've even talked about on your trip down here, we made a special visit to the Dallas Zoo to get that checked off your list.
Right. And then there's another zoo in Dallas. I guess it's the Fort Worth Zoo or something.
That is. And
so next trip, that's on my list.
Ryan, I did all the background audio for that zoo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So if you hear an announcement or if we hear any noise while we're walking around, that was all my design. I spent We'll talk about that when you come down. But I spent quite a bit of time at the Fort Worth Zoo planning because every day I was like, I think I need to go back out to the zoo again.
Right. I'm looking forward to that trip as well. Here we hit 3 zoos during this trip. First one we ended up at was first one we ended up with was Columbus. I'm gonna do these in orders that we hit them in. Motion detected. And each one had something different. So my wife and now I am as well, as the more I've interacted with them, we're really big fans of elephants and seeing different elephants. So each zoo has a different set of elephants. If they're Asian or African, depending, but they're really, really neat. But also in Columbus, we saw they have a cheetah run. So they have a couple cheetahs, and they build this. They have a big open area, so they're encased. Those walls are not getting out. But there's zookeepers go out there, and the cheetahs are okay with them. They're totally fine. So they're out there with the cheetahs, and they set up this this fuzzy, probably looks like a rabbit or something. So when they pull it, they're pulling this big string around, and this cheetah's chasing it down. It is amazing.
So you get to see them do some of that high speed action that they're.
Oh yeah, and they're cornering like they're on rails, and it's really, really neat. Have a neat video for it, but it's really cool. Highly recommend it.
And that was at the Columbus Zoo.
I was at the Columbus Zoo. One of the other zoos had one too, but it wasn't the day we were at it. But we did that at the Columbus Zoo, and that was kind of like a really big highlight.
Wow.
And then we had some good elephants there, so that's pretty sweet. So there's a lot of other stuff at the zoo. Those were super memorable, targeted things that we, purposely put on the map.
And now we're going to move over to the Cincinnati Zoo, but I got a question. There was a guy back during the Johnny Carson days who was like an ambassador of the zoo, and he was like well known everywhere. I say Johnny Carson, he was probably on the one with Jay Leno and everyone else. I think he's passed away. Wasn't he from one of these zoos?
Yes, he was.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes, Jack Hanna.
Jack Hanna
from the Columbus Zoo.
Yes, right. So as soon as you said Columbus and Cincinnati, I went, this dude from one of those.
Yeah, definitely. He had a TV show too. I'll see him on reruns locally over the air here. That he's going to different places and talking about animals. Definitely, that was he was relations with the Columbus Zoo. I don't know what his total role was, but yeah, definitely within the Columbus Zoo. Very, very cool. In Cincinnati, of course, we saw elephants. That's a primary objective at all zoos that have them. We got to see it's a manatees, which is pretty rare in the zoo area, and they are like big water creatures. Need an amazing amount of lettuce, from what I can tell.
And are those the ones that are like the hippo over the water?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. They're just totally chill. Whereas, not hippos, cows of the water. I think they're sometimes called the cows of the water, whereas hippos are like dangerous assassins in the water.
Yes, they're super evil. They're super mean. I'm not saying evil. They're just super mean. The manatees were cool. These ones were injured, so they ended up in the zoo at some point. They normally got hit with boat strikes. Some of the props off a boat, so you can see their scarring, and then they end up in a zoo, and they take care of them, and they're cool.
And they are able to release them.
I do not believe so. I think that's why they're in the zoo.
Okay. Once they're rehabilitated, they do kind of have to stick around.
They had a couple there were like that, and I think they do some rehabilitation with others as well if it's not as bad, but one of them is missing a big part of its back. Like a fin or something like one. But they do some rehabilitation as well at the Cincy Zoo, from what I remember, and they are able to re-release some that are possible. So that's kind of cool. I like that zoos are doing that kind of stuff. They do a lot of the rehabilitation. They're actually working on breeding of more endangered creatures. I was going to say rare, but I guess endangered and rare is the same thing.
Yeah.
For all practical purposes. And it's really nice that they're doing that. They keep track of. I know from an elephant perspective, there's a huge list of where all the elephants are, what their genealogy chain is. So they're trying to keep the gene pool pretty dispersed because they'll move some elephants from one zoo to another to form a breeding perspective. I know the male elephant at the DC Zoo is not permanently at the DC Zoo.
Ah.
It's flown from one of the other zoos. I don't remember which one.
On loan.
Yep. And then we had an interaction with a very big turtle.
Ooh.
The Galapagos turtle.
A Galapagos turtle. When you say very big, let's look at the idea of a 55-gallon trash can put on its side.
Yeah, I mean they're very big. These ones were about 15 years old.
Ooh.
So they were not very old yet.
No, that's like a baby in turtle.
Yes. Your smaller ones, I think they said within sometime in the next 5 years they could actually start to mate and reproduce.
Okay.
So they were, you take your big arms around like this big barrel thing, and they're at least that big. Super friendly. They had 4 of them. So as soon as we walked into the space, 3 of them saw us and were like, ooh, and they started coming towards you. And they can move a little bit faster than what you think.
Does it kind of make you a little scared though? I would be kind of like, I would be a little cautious.
No, because we had keepers with us, so they knew what was going on, and there was a bucket of like lettuce, and we're feeding them lettuce. So you're holding on to it and feeding them, and there's a certain point where they're like, keepers are like, yeah, you might want to drop that, because they just clamp down on it, and they don't have a concept of chewing.
Right.
So they don't, and they're very bad with depth perception. So they have no idea. Luckily, we actually wore bright colors that weren't green, so they could actually tell us apart a little bit. But they said their colors are really, they just grab it and they're just pulling it in and swallow lettuce.
So if you get bit by a turtle, they didn't really mean it on purpose. A Galapagos.
These particular turtles.
A Galapagos, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Snapping turtle, no, it wants to. Snapping turtles want to bite you the
Yes.
minute they see you, yes.
Yeah, these no. They were like, oh, they just want to eat the lettuce, right? And then we got to pet them. They really enjoyed that.
What?
And you pet the top of their head, and if you don't push down hard enough, they would push up on you to like make it harder and force.
Wow.
And you got to rub their neck. So if they're just like whatever, you're losing interest because you're not playing with them, you got to rub their neck. They stick their neck out so you can actually rub them. They love that.
Wow.
And you can push down on the back of their shell, and they can feel it.
That is really neat that they've opened that up for small experiences, right?
Yes.
I would not want to have them overstimulated or have little kids that aren't being monitored.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice that they do allow that experience to happen. It's an enrichment for the animals. Seeing something new every day, having different smells, having different experiences. We got to take care of our animals. Even though they're in zoos, we got to treat them with respect. Yeah,
they do it. They only do it a couple times a week, so it's not like every day. I don't know if it's like every other day, but it was very monitored, and I guess they do it a lot because we were in there. There's 4 of us had bought the, it's an upcharge, whatever, but you buy the experience. And then there were other people who were asked, like, oh, is this the turtle day? Because I guess on certain days they allow more people in, like every so often. Because the turtles seem to really like it. Turtles are really friendly.
Do other people watch you as you're doing the turtle experience?
Yeah, you're just inside that enclosure.
Oh, that is so cool.
Oh, yeah.
That is so cool that they have that, people can watch you doing the experience too. And again, it's also a money raiser for the zoo. They need money. They need money to make things happen. And that also entices people to maybe try it themselves if they're interested.
Yeah, they had a whole bunch of different encounters. They had an elephant one. It was sold out by the time we figured out the day we were going to be there. It's fine. And dear listener, you'll understand why in a little while. Well, that's fine. But it was, they have a lot of different encounters. Even my local one, not the Smithsonian, but the one in Baltimore, Maryland, they have different encounters as well. Like we did the elephant one here. You don't get to interact with them a lot. They're down by you. And you get to color a brown paper bag, and they put fruit in it, and they'll throw it in the enclosure.
Oh.
And they just eat the entire brown paper bag.
Oh, yeah.
Which at first makes you go, wait, why are they eating a paper bag? But understand elephants eat trees, so a brown paper bag is just a tree.
Oh. Yeah.
They like the fruits and stuff. And then if like we saw one, like a grape roll by, and the elephant could pick up the grape off the ground and eat it without squishing it. Oh yeah, they have an amazing amount of control. Yeah. But Cincinnati Zoo is really cool. It is much smaller than the Columbus Zoo. The Columbus Zoo felt more like a zoo / amusement park because they have two sections, a zoo side, and they have rides, and it's hugely spread out compared to the Cincinnati Zoo. So if you're going to the Columbus Zoo, pack your walking shoes because it's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to Cincinnati Zoo, it's a little closer together. It's more in town, surrounded by stuff, where the Columbus Zoo is out a little bit, and they had all kinds of space when they built it. So they're totally different experiences in that aspect. I recommend both zoos. We're so really glad we've been to both of them. After that, the third zoo that we went to the Indianapolis Zoo, home of Gen Con. I actually across the bridge from Gen Con.
Wow, I did not know it was that close. When you mentioned that one time in one of our phone calls just in passing, I obviously knew there was a zoo there because you always think, oh, maybe I'll do something different one day, and you never do. You always game. But I didn't know it was that close.
Yes, we walked down to the bridge. Inside thing here, but we walked down by the bridge looking for Pokemon Go that one year down by the water. Yeah. If you cross that bridge, the zoo's on the other side.
Pokemon Go.
Yeah. So it's like right there downtown. We cross a bridge and it's just like right there. And it's a pretty good sized zoo as well. They had a lot of neat things. They had a baby elephant about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years ago now. Ooh. And he's still on the smaller side. I mean, I think he's like 700 pounds now, but that's on the smaller side.
So bigger than the Dallas baby elephant.
I think so, yes. Yeah.
Remember that one? That one was just so tiny. I mean, it was probably still weighed, more than a motorcycle, obviously, and less than a car, but it's a baby. It's a baby elephant.
Yeah, they're normally born in the 250 to 300 pound range. So this guy's bigger. He's around 2 years old, and you can tell he's still trying to figure it out, what's going on, just like the Dallas Zoo one. He's like, how does this trunk thing work? Pick stuff up. That kind of thing. Like, so it takes him a couple of years to figure that out. Really cool. Saw a keeper talk there. It was great. They have some neat monkeys. They had an ape or chimpanzee. They just built a thing. It goes all around like upper area of this big hamster tube things, but for this monkey. Oh, so the monkeys can go exploring and you can interact with them.
Oh, so they have like a habit trail. You got like a habit trail for monkeys.
Yeah, they're going up and around to the top, and you can see them throughout. It's really, really neat. I can't remember what they are. If they're monkeys, chimpanzee, whatever. But it was really cool. Really, really liked it. That was a neat concept, being able to see them. And then you see them up on the top there. They'd be looking down at you as you're looking up at them.
Oh, they're just chilling. They're just chilling. Watching
you. Space. They had a really neat bird show there as well. And where you're doing stuff, and it's a couple times a day, these macaws are flying over, and they land in the center, this area where they do the show. It's like a 15-minute show, and then they fly back to where they're supposed to be.
Okay, so you're telling me the macaws could fly away if they wanted?
Sure, 100%.
They kind of like their life, so they fly from one spot to the other spot to get treats. I'm sure they get treats during the show, right? So for them, it's like, hey, I got treats. and then they fly back home when they're done.
Yeah, there's macaws. There's some other birds. They had at one point there's a chicken. It was interesting how they picked the chicken. They put a treat in the little cage for that day, and whatever the first chicken in to go gets it goes to the show.
Comes to the show.
It's like,
that's how they do not have the same intelligence as the macaws, is what you're telling me.
No, they do not.
No.
They're like, oh, treat. The first one
I'm
in.
sure someone has trained chickens. I'm sure someone has a chicken buddy.
Yeah.
There's got to be a chicken with an exceptional level of intelligence out there.
Yes.
But, probably not norm.
No. Macaws are like, they're eating treats and they're doing some stuff on the show. It's really, really cool. So they looked like they were fine. And, there's a couple of them you could tell would stick around at the end and they'd be picking up all the seeds that fell off the table and stuff before they flew back.
Did you have any rogue birds come join the show that aren't really part of the show that are part of the world?
Not that I'm aware of.
I could see that happening. Just some random bird goes, I'm going to check this out.
But there were several birds there. Macaws were part of them, but there were other types of birds as well. I don't know. There could have been some others that just kind of like, hey, treats. So
Were they trained as much as the Ren Fair shows? The Ren Fair shows, they actually with the eagles flying around and things going there. Did they feel that trained?
These did. At the end of this one, and I believe at Columbus, the macaws, that they were doing donations. So you could go up with a $1 bill. The macaw would grab it with its beak and drop it in the donation jar.
Oh, no way. How smart.
It was pretty neat in that aspect. So both did that. And we had the dolphin show. The Indianapolis Zoo has a huge aquarium,
would not have guessed that. Would not have guessed that.
No, it was really cool. They're having a lot of fun. They did a lot of neat tricks. They got a lot of treats. And then they have an area you can walk underneath the water, then you can see the dolphins looking around. They're swimming around and stuff while you're underneath in this little bubble area.
Wow. Okay, what you're telling me is Indy's really trying to work out ways that you see animals from a different point of view, even in the sense of the chimp habit trail, under the dolphins or around. That's very interesting because normally they have you can see the side of the tank, and that's really
right.
Yep. So they're giving some unique observation points.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely really cool. We haven't seen a dolphin show in a long time, so we'll go do that. That sounds great. They had a butterfly pavilion as well. You could go through and see butterflies.
I always like this.
There's so much to do there. That was a pretty good sized zoo. A lot of neat opportunities. It's really close to Gen Con too. Great times.
Well, that might have to be on the calendar one year.
I think so. Maybe it'd be fun to go in for a little extra. Maybe go on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday, and go hit the zoo.
That's exactly what I was just looking. I was like, are they open Sundays? They probably are open Sundays too. I was thinking the other way, on a Sunday. I flew out at 8 p.m. and we'll talk about Gen Con. Sorry, I shouldn't jump the gun. That's a lot of time to go do something else. But I don't know when they're open. You know what I mean? We'll have to figure that out.
Yep, that'll be something to think about. But it's really, really neat. And for the biggest part of why we did this big adventure, we went to a wildlife preserve in Indiana called Wilstern Wildlife Park. It's in Peoria, Indiana, down by French Lick, which is a big, resorty area, about an hour and a half south of Indianapolis. They have.
Hold on. This is like Tiger King for elephants?
Tiger King. I'm not sure. What's Tiger King?
Okay. Well, then we're done. If you don't know Tiger King, we're done. But it was an experience in Oklahoma where a guy had all these tigers and lions and stuff, but it was private. It wasn't a zoo. It was a zoo, but it wasn't a public zoo. It was a private area. It was all owned by that person. Same kind of deal. This is a private thing you went.
Yes. Wow. 100% private. They still have FDA accreditations to get, but they're not zoo accredited.
Right.
Because we did a elephant encounter, surprise, where it was a full contact elephant encounter, and zoos are not allowed to have full contact with elephants.
Wow.
For the accreditation. I don't know when that changed. I know they used to be able to, but now they are not. Even the keepers are not allowed to have full contact. So theirs was a pair of elephants. They are retired circus elephants.
Oh.
The one was 55 and the other one was 60.
Wow.
Super friendly. Super, super friendly elephants. I can't say enough about how they were friendly. The keeper and them looked like they got along really well. So they had like this, it just felt like they had a relationship together.
Mm-hmm.
And the keeper had said that he had known the one all of his life because his mom, I guess, rode the one while she was pregnant with him 40 years ago.
Oh.
So it was like, yeah. And they were great. It was Vicky and Cindy were the two different elephants there. Super experience. We got to feed them. We got to pet them. We got to wash them. We scrubbed them down, hosed them off. Just learned about them. I got to spend some time with them, which is what we really wanted to do.
Unlike anything you've ever done in your life with elephants before.
Never. There are very few places in the United States where you can actually have a full contact elephant experience. And I believe all of them are using, that's what he said, are using retired circus elephants.
Oh, just because they're so used to people and
they're
just so used to people that's and they're so intelligent and you probably saw that. And even when they were working with you about, hey, wash me here, you know what I mean? I bet that they were, they're just smart and they're intelligent and it's crazy.
We saw the one came out and she kind of looked at the keeper and bent down and he was like, oh, okay. And then he used like that bullhook thing there to like scratch the back of her head. She was itchy. So it was kind of like, yep, come on, let's do this. And when we were feeding them, we had like, I think we had like sweet potatoes and I forget what the other thing was. But the one, we'd put something in her hand and she would just take it out of your hand. And the other one, you actually had to put the food in her trunk.
Oh. But
if you didn't put a big enough piece in, she would nudge you a little bit to like, hey, come on, fill it up here. I'm a big girl.
So did you put a little in just to get the nudge?
Yeah, we didn't realize. They eat pretty quick.
Okay.
So I just put one piece in and I'm like, I wonder why she didn't take it. And she's looking at me and then still looking at me. And then she would nudge me a little bit with her trunk. And like, oh, okay. And I put another piece in and she ate it. And then half the unit kind of zoned out. She nudged me once and I'm like, wait, I'm working on it. We're getting closer to the end. So I dropped a piece and she nudged me a little bit harder.
Wow.
like put it in here.
Wow.
At me. It was awesome.
Dude,
it was really, really cool.
That sounds like a once in a lifetime bucket list item.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. We got to spend all told, I think we might have been there between the different sessions we bought over the 2 days. Maybe like 3.5 hours with elephants.
Wow.
From a private section to group time. We just bought everything that they had. And yeah, it was just, by the end, they were like, if we weren't interacting with them a little bit, because we would pet them and we were really, hey, we're involved. And some people were, we had some of the group sessions later, they were more scared and would back off of them a little bit as they kind of were using their trunk to feel, like what's going on, because they smell well. And then after a while, they just come like, hey, you can see their trunk coming towards you. Or at one point, I was looking at one elephant and the other one with her trunk's over here, like, why aren't you playing with me? Kind of thing is what the impression was. Like, oh, sorry.
Again, I hope that they really enjoy that gives them new experiences in life and all the kindness that everybody gives them. I hope that really is enriching for these elephants that may have had a great zoo life or may not have had a great zoo life, you know. So I hope they have a good end of life.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we stayed in a cabin there. You can rent cabins from this wildlife
Oh,
thing.
you walked into my next question. Was
It was
logical.
there.
It looks like they have like 12, 15 Airbnb cabins ready to go.
Yeah, it was great. We stayed at the one that was about 40 feet from the elephant barn.
Yeah.
We couldn't see the elephants from at night. It was right there. Yeah, we didn't hear them either.
Oh,
But so since we stayed there, one of the things is, oh, they'll pick you up in the evening and you have this 45-minute encounter at night. And that's not by ourselves generally, but we were there on a Thursday and nobody else bought it, so it was just us.
oh wow, private.
That was cool. And then we did a private hour the next morning, and then like another hour with up to 6 people, and then there was another hour with up to like 12 people.
Okay, so this was the pinnacle of the trip. I think you already said this was the reason for the trip to happen, but yeah,
Yes.
definitely pinnacle, definitely.
Oh yeah, this is probably one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. Wow. To the point where we were really sad when we left because we wanted to go back.
Yeah,
we wanted to go see them. We would just want to hang out with them. It's like they have this huge field that they get to wander around in, and the keeper was there. We could see him there a lot. You know, like even when we're hanging out at night, his vehicle's parked up there. We'll see him come and go and checking on them. And it was hot and getting ready to be hot at that point. It was still, the heat was still coming up when we were there. Dayton was later, so this was it was still, you know, like low 80s, mid 80s. And he was setting up more and more like misters, like misting and sprinklers, and getting them all set up in different areas, and so they could just spray water on them to keep them cool. And they do have a pool that they can go into, but a lot of times she had to look at it and go, no.
Spray me, human. Spray
Correct. They'll go out and you'd see them in the shade and stuff like that. They were super friendly. I know Amy was washing one off. She was sideways, and you could tell she was thirsty because she turned 90 degrees. The keeper was talking to somebody else, and she just turned 90 degrees and was like, yep, I am now going to drink everything that you're spraying at me. He did. She's like, nope, in here. And Amy's like, okay, who am I to argue with you?
That's right.
The one, and I was doing the other one, because we rotated through when we were washing them off. And I was doing the other one, and I'd wash her off, and she'd move her trunk over to where the hose was to a certain point, so you're spraying into her trunk with the hose. I'm like, well, if you're doing that much work, I'll just leave it here and let you drink whatever water you want. Who am I to? I'm here to make you happy too. So yeah. That makes me happy.
Yeah, makes complete sense.
Yeah, and this wildlife preserve had the elephants. We saw all kinds of other. They had a safari encounter where they had bison. Don't touch the fluffy cows; they don't like that. Antelopes, ostriches, emus. Wow. There was some elk. Yeah, so you go through on this wagon and they give you a little thing of food and you get to feed some of them. And then you get a pass to drive back through it yourself with your car. And then they have animatronic dinosaurs. They just opened the weekend we were there.
Oh.
They have going on. It's really neat. They have giraffes there you could feed. We had a monkey encounter, like little spider monkeys that are small. Got to pet them. We did a encounter with otters, so you get to feed them. So you put like this whatever fish they were eating on the stick and lowered it down. They'd grab it off the stick and eat it. They're a little more on the aggressive side, so you kept separation.
I'm taking back my Tiger King comment because Tiger King just seemed to be a bunch of like metal and wood enclosures he made for the animals to be in them. This place sounds like it was a animal amusement park that they were all over the place doing their best thing, living their best life, and you're just all around them because you're saying big open fields, you're saying ride through. It's like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they had zebras there. I think there were kangaroos. They had drone turtles. They had a sloth encounter you could do. Yeah, there were tons of all kinds of animals. Highly recommended if you're in that area. Really, really neat. And it got busy. Thursday we were there. It's like, oh, it doesn't look too busy. But by Friday night and I think it's Saturday morning. I think we left Saturday. So it was busy. It was like packed.
Oh yeah, think about all those people being able to stay on property. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And those are really beautiful cabins that it looks
It was
like.
great. Super great cabins. Glad we did it. The one we had was a little more than what we needed. The first one we were looking at, by the time we decided to book, was booked from somebody else. So we ended up with the one that was right by the elephants, but it had like 2 bedrooms. There was a washer and dryer in it, a full kitchen. Yeah, it was a house.
Yeah.
It was really comfy, and it was about the middle of our trip, and it was nice to feel like you're in a little house, not just hotel.
Not hotel living.
Yes.
You were able to have a kitchen. You were able to have washer and dryer, as you mentioned. You had nice beds and a living area where you could actually take a second and breathe. Yeah.
It worked great. We were there 2 nights, which was long enough to get our car charged.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We had 110 plugged in, so we just had a car plugged in at 110.
Yep.
And it worked. Everything was great. Highly recommend this place. The Wilson, it was great. No complaints whatsoever about it. That was a big trip there. I mean,
man, I'm telling you, it was you. And by the way, just so everybody knows, this was approximately 25 days, 20 days. How long was this entire trip?
I think we were gone 18 or 19.
19.
Because part of this, I'm going to be foreshadowing a little bit. We'll talk about this in a different episode, but we had a couple days stay at Origins back in Columbus, and that tail ended it. And we stopped in Wheeling, West Virginia, to like a train museum, train and toy museum there that was really cool. So there was so much we did.
And to button it up, you got to visit with some friends too. Not only that, you got to see some of the people we normally see in very specific instances like Gen Con. And you just got to hang out with the folks that live in the Indy area that we know from the con. So that was really neat too. Now, did you get a chance to see Larry and the crew in PA during this trip too?
That was part of the Origins trip. They came out to Origins.
Okay. And we're saving Origins for the next episode.
Correct. And just from a vintage computer perspective, a guy I know online, I ended up with some of his Amiga software, and that might have surprised Amy a little bit when our trunk was full of some Amiga software. Oh, dear listener, Ryan worked out a Craigslist / marketplace deal during the middle of his vacation for more vintage stuff. You're the king of the show, Ryan. That's all there is. When it comes to vintage, it's you. It's your show. I'm just here to hang out. That was smart to be able to, because how else are you going to get out there to pick that up? I mean, that was great to build that in during the trip. And that way we get to save the software, save the software and, add it to a collection or move it on eventually at, consignment. Right. So there was that. And I spent a little time with him, looked through some of his hardware and says, these are some things to look at. And sent him some good floppy disks later as part of the trade and stuff for it, because he had some issues. To be able to boot, he needed some boot disks. Yeah, he needed some boot disks. He had them. It's just looks like there was read errors on them, so it made him a clean set and got those out to him so he can work on his hardware. Well, I'm glad this episode did end with a little retro in it, a little vintage computing. Got to do it. I can't believe it. I'm so stoked that this actually ended with some vintage computing. I think that brings us to a close. We're kind of hitting on the high water mark here on time. Yeah. Anything else to throw in, or I'll say goodbye at this point. Well, thank you for coming along for our my adventures through the summer, and I'm looking forward to more. Oh, I got some too. All right. We'll talk soon. Bye, y'all.